Sounds good. So, so I think, when was your first year you got into real estate?
So I got licensed 2021.
21. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. 21. So I'm 3.5 years licensed.
Okay. And going all over the Twin Cities, how far kind of have you been seeing yourself sell real estate in the whole metro?
Yeah, great question, Trav. So, I found myself traveling probably 3 hours from kind of the heart of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the Twin Cities here. I try not to do that. I was taught by my mentor at the time I started. Try to keep it within an hour. We do a lot of volume, so that's part of our business model too, of course. But there's times when you get family and friends or that one client that you just absolutely love, and
Right.
it doesn't matter where they're at, right?
Yeah, that's right. No
So,
doubt. What have you been seeing in the last year, and then forecasting into this year? Do you see inventory in the Twin Cities increasing or staying about the same?
with the spring market approaching, we're going to get that little bump that we typically do, of course, which is a seasonal bump, right?
Yep.
But regardless of that, what everyone is saying that holds a crystal ball in real estate, right, is that we are pretty much going to see inventory stay flat as it is, which in my opinion has kind of been the driving factor in the local real estate market, anyways. You can't change inventory. You have the cost of replacement, the cost of building, and whatnot. As we all know, with inflation, everything's going up. So that's directly affecting housing inventory too, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
It is. And prices wise, are you predicting prices to even go up this year a little bit?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I follow the Fed Reserve pretty well. I
Mhm.
follow different tax assessments, being a landlord and property manager myself. I do expect, I would say, probably a 3 to 6% bump this year alone. At minimum, I would guess.
Yeah. So when you have like a lot of people that have talked to you throughout this last year, because the biggest question is should I keep renting? Should I buy? Rates are kind of high right now. Maybe I should wait. And when you kind of talk to some of your customers, and I'll give you my 2 cents on this, but I want to hear you first. When a customer comes to you, especially right now, today's market, and they say, with rates being high and what do you see with prices? Do you think it's still smart for me to rent and wait for rates to come down? Or should I look at buying right now, Matt? What's your response to that?
Yeah, Travis, that's a great question. And to be transparent, I get asked that question almost on a daily basis. So
Right.
as I know you do as well.
Yeah.
So I'm somewhat prepared for that question, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And the answer honestly is just like we said in regards to inventory, which is the driving factor again, that
Mhm.
can't be changed. That is a direct indicator, in my opinion, that the answer to your question is buy right now. Buy yesterday if you're able to. Look at the history of real estate in terms of valuations and whatnot holding their value, right?
Mhm.
That's why I would say, and look at the rate of inflation lately in addition to real estate values, even more so. So, with those two massive contributing factors, I would say it's absolutely no question that you should buy now. And the other end to it, as I'm sure a lot of us all know, is rental rates. Look at the rental rates right now. Again, I am a landlord myself and a property manager, so there's times I'm on the better end of that. But I also rent some properties as well at times. There's a tax benefit, of course. So, that's the other kind of the wow factor is look at what rental rates are. Rental rates used to be way more approachable than getting a mortgage. Now that has definitely flipped. Therefore, I think it's no question that you buy now.
Yeah, I like that answer. That's a great answer. I mean, it's inevitable when people say I want to wait for rates to come down, but then the ultimate thing that you got to talk about is okay, if rates come down, what do you think prices are going to do? And that's where the most of these conversations that you hear people talking about and that you see, posts all over online is that we should be talking equally rates, home prices, and then we should also be talking about what is inventory going to do, because it takes a long time for inventory to catch up, right?
Yep,
And they're predicting like a couple years. Like
exactly.
it's like builders can't build houses fast enough, right? And if inventory still stays where it's at, that has nothing to do with, our price is going to come down now. Well, they don't have to, because inventory isn't high. So
Correct.
prices are going to go up. And then when people are worried about a housing crash, um, that in itself kind of bothers me a little bit, of all the fear that people have been putting out this last year is inflation or our market. Are we prepared for a housing crash? Housing crashes happen when people lose their jobs, and when the job markets are real bad, right? And if
Yep.
jobs are really good, people then make their house payments, and when they make their house payments, house prices don't have to fall.
You're absolutely right, Travis. Spot on. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So do you typically would you say you work more with buyers or sellers?
I found myself partially due to when I jumped into real estate in 2020, 2021. I found myself predominantly working with sellers more often.
Okay.
I've got a few more credentials as a listing specialist, whatnot. So that's also been kind of my focus.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, a plethora of buyers still too. I think we had 3 buyers just this last week alone for my team. So
Oh,
we,
cool.
we we do a lot of buyers as well. Don't get me wrong, but my focus is more on sellers. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is a couple things that separates yourself, as a listing agent and working with more sellers, what kind of things do you think that you do that has been making you very, very successful on the listing side?
Yeah, great question. I think it's kind of a twofold answer. One is my network. I had a very large local network because of my past industry.
Mhm.
Locally, therefore, I have when the market's so hot, as we all know, there's the off-market industry in housing just is on fire when the MLS is hot, right?
Mhm.
Therefore, I have been very, very blessed, I guess you could say, because of the size of my network,
Mhm.
that I have done just an incredible number of off market transactions in the last few years. So I think that's something that certainly sets myself aside from most agents. Typically, a lot of realtors rely on MLS to just, let me snap your photos and let me pop a for sale sign in your front yard. And you know what? We're going to be on MLS, and MLS is going to do all the work for us, right? Um,
Mhm.
that is a lazy approach, and in a market like we've seen in recent years, that approach is not going to work anymore. I'm sorry. So that's one thing I think that sets me aside. Another thing, other than off markets, is my marketing. I am a marketer as well as just as much as I would call myself a realtor. So I am kind of on top of things always, I guess you could say. And when my marketing is real, a lot of these agents they'll show you, the Ferraris and the cars and this and that and the suits and whatnot.
Mhm.
No, mine is, my marketing is with my daughter. It's at my house. It's at all of my offices. It's at my properties that I actually manage and own myself that are all local. And it's with my clients that I absolutely love. So I think that's one of the differences too that sets me aside.
That's awesome. When it comes to, finding out what somebody's house is worth, that's always a big question. I think a lot of future sellers that might be watching this video, they're like, how is a realtor going to come up with my price? Like what we could sell my house for. I have no idea what my house is worth. Can
Sure.
you talk about a little bit of like what goes into the method that you help customers with when they're saying, "Hey, I want to sell my house. What could we get for it?" How
Yeah.
explain that a little bit in the intricacies of it and how you kind of maximize your seller's price they get.
Yeah, that's a great question too. So predominantly being a listing specialist, this is exactly kind of the bread and butter of what I do on a regular basis. And it's funny you ask, because I always let all of my sellers know every time when we have what's called the listing presentation, which is just the first meeting where I introduce myself. I provide a bunch of data and whatnot, which helps in the contribution to the price point, like you said. But what I let them know is and it's interesting too, and I don't think many other listing specialists do this, is I let them know, okay, we're going to list your property. We're going to have 3 different numbers that are going to be evaluation of your property. And they say, Matt, what are you talking about? I'd say, well, listen, okay, you're going to have one is going to be your comps, right? I'm going to come up with a number that's going to be a price evaluation on your property based off of comparisons, and that's really it, right? That's what we call a CMA, a competitive market analysis in real estate. That's one thing that I would provide, which it's nice because you get sold comps, you get pending comps, and you get active comps. And we typically pull them within 6 months because the market is ever changing so much, as we all know. So that's one price we get, right, from comps. Second price we get is an appraisal value, which, as we all know, an appraisal is what a bank or a financial institution feels comfortable to lend on, right?
Mhm.
That is going to be your second number. Your third number is going to be what somebody's willing to pay for your property.
Mhm.
Now, in every real estate transaction, all 3 of those numbers are almost always different than each other, right? So I kind of outline that up front and let them know, I think one of the biggest things, Travis, is setting expectations when you're meeting with a homeowner. Because just like you said, they're online and they're seeing realtor.com, Zillow.com, they're seeing social media, Google, right? And they're seeing 25 different price points for the same property that they own. So they have no idea where to start and where to go. And I think that's the value in having a lender just like yourself
Mhm.
and having a real estate specialist like myself on your side. I think that's the significant difference. And that's the value in what we do.
Yeah, 100%. And I get the question all the time. People say, "Hey, should I use a realtor? Is a realtor important?" And I always say, "Yes, yes, yes." And they're like, "Well, how come?" Because maybe I want to, try to sell it myself. And I'm like, "Would you go to court without a lawyer?"
That's exactly what I say.
So
And
it's
some of them have gone to court without an attorney and they learn the hard way, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. And then I say this. I say, "Okay, wait. I don't. Do I just say just get a realtor?" No. And then they're like, "What?" Get a good realtor.
Correct.
A good one. Oh, you gotta shop around a little bit. You gotta interview a couple. You gotta ask for some recommendations, maybe some
Correct.
friends, family that have used a few. And I always say this. I say, don't just call on a random realtor on a listing on a website because you want to find yours if you're a buyer. And if you're a seller, even more important, like you're talking about how to come up with the price. And you being a homeowner and a seller, I don't think almost any seller could truthfully look in the mirror and be like, I know exactly what my house is worth, because they don't they don't have the data and they don't have the tools to find that out. And then when it comes to negotiating and how to present the house and stuff that you can get and not get, that's the power of a good realtor, and that's where I know you're at. So that's why I'm so glad we're talking. um when and I think a lot of people don't know this, when they say, well, how will the realtor come up with my value based on those 3 things you brought up, when you're kind of determining what to list it for initially. And then we know sometimes the price can end up changing,
Yeah.
what it end up gets sold for. But when you determine this is the list price, and then you and your seller post it and get it out there live, what kind of stuff do you make sure that some people might not know, that you help with gathering the comps or the data that would make this house versus this one across the street maybe worth a little bit more? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of things we look at is square footage, when was it built? What are the updates, additions, all sorts of things. And in real estate, we have different values. You know, if it's an extra bathroom, it's worth X in this neighborhood, right? If it's an updated kitchen versus an outdated kitchen, it's worth X more in this neighborhood. So we have different various platforms and tools that we use like that. That also helps significantly when, like you said, when you're kind of apples to apples on the same street, and you see this all the time with buyers. They're like, you know, Matt, what is with this house and this one? They are the same builder. They were built the same year. They're next to each other on the same street. They're the same square footage, same bed bath, but we have
Yeah.
different price tags, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly when this question comes about every time. And I let them know a lot of it comes down to additions and upgrades. You know, upgrades can make a world of a difference in the housing market. Look at the car industry and the auto industry. You ever buy a car that's loaded versus base, and every 12 steps in between, it's not that much different from a house. So, you know, I think that's another big factor when you're kind of comparing apples to apples. It's not always apples to apples underneath, if you would. And again, another value in having a lender partner as well as a realtor partner
Mhm.
that is experienced and seasoned and knows what they're doing as well as is well connected. That's
Yeah.
the other value that I don't think we've touched on yet, Travis, that I think is very important in our industry to both of our businesses is honestly having somebody that's connected when the market is hot like it has been and is, especially like they're saying with this spring market. Everybody in real estate that has, like I say, a crystal ball,
Yep.
they're all predicting that we're going to see a hot market this spring. A number of my listings are already have been in multiple offers for the last 2 weeks. That is absolutely unheard of this time of year in the climate I'm in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, so kind of with that being said, I think that the importance of having a lender and a realtor that's well connected, it holds more value than it ever did before.
I like that. Now, definitely a very hot topic, but I'm gonna throw it your way and see what you come up with on this one. So, when I've had, throughout the last decade, because I've been doing it 13 years now, lending, is that I get so many of my clients from time to time that'll say, "Hey, we might plan on listing our house, and we want to try first selling it ourselves
Yep.
because we want to save the realtor commission because it's going to be a lot of money. So we know our house is in a good neighborhood and it should sell fast. What do you think, Travis?" And then every conversation like that, it gets touchy. But when somebody says to you, "We're going to try selling our house by ourselves first,"
Yep.
what do you think sellers should be aware of that they might not know, and or what you've seen in the past, and or when sellers have tried to sell it themselves that have blown up in their face?
Yeah, great question. So I think part of it is one of the issues with what we call in the industry a for sale by owner, right?
Yep.
So a homeowner selling their house on their own. One of the greatest issues we run into is their price is for their property is based on emotions, feelings, and their heart. It's not based on the actual and local housing market, right? It's not based on the local economy. It's not based on comparisons. What I'm getting at, Travis, is when you list your own property, you're in a completely different position because emotions are involved, right? It's kind of like the difference between, I say, commercial real estate and residential real estate. One has emotions far more than the other, right? And I
Right.
think that's one issue with listing your own house is your expectations. I'm not saying are wrong or off, but they may be a little blurry, is all I'm getting at. And it helps to have somebody that does this day in, day out, and is seasoned and again has access to a number of things. Kind of like you hit before. Another issue, one of the main issues with selling your property on your own is access. You don't have access to MLS. You don't have access to what we call property realtors property resource, which I can pull up all tax assessments. Now, don't get me wrong. You do have public data that, yes, you can pull up a lot of information if you're doing a for sale by owner. Yes. You cannot get the info that a licensed agent can get, however, certainly not in the time either. And one thing we've learned in real estate, since it's a roller coaster that's ever changing, is time is money. So I don't know if I'm going to list the arguably the largest investment of my lifetime, right? If I'm going to sell the largest investment in my life, I don't know if I want to kind of roll the dice with timing and get my ducks in a row and hope that I'm ready to list this by the time the market has not taken a dip down, right? So I
Right.
think that's another part of it too. It's just like you said, you're not going to go into court without a lawyer. You're not going to go into battle without a weapon, right?
Right.
And that's where I think the value speaks for itself.
And see, that's going to be that difference between just using a realtor or a lender versus a really good realtor and a really good lender. That's going to be the difference. Like I give a lot of examples of is there's a lot of lenders out there that can't offer everything. So they're going
Yep.
to push somebody into something. And then they're going to realize after closing that they could have saved a couple $1,000 by using this lender. And or I would have to say, and you can chime in on this when I'm done here, is that I know a lot of times clients that are trying to for sale by owner their house, they're kind of using their data, but they might not get it all, list their house, realize they could have sold it for more after the fact. So now they might have lost out on 10, 20, 25K.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we tried to save money. And a lot of times, even some of these lenders out there that are all out there trying to grab clients and solicit them and say, oh, our rate's cheaper, our rate's cheaper. But then they're building in fees that the
Yeah.
clients don't see. Or, they delay their closing. And now that they delay their closing, that costed them time away from their job, which costed them money. And then the
Correct.
delays of closing, maybe rate lock extensions, maybe paying for U-Hauls longer than they needed to. Like there's all these things that can come into play when you don't get a really good lender and a really good realtor, because
Correct.
you can actually make more, save more by picking the right lender and the right realtor. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, Travis. And both you and I have seen that happen a number of times in our business. So it's
Mhm.
not in if, you know what I mean? It's kind of a when, really. But yes, and that brings me back to my point earlier with marketing. That is one of the biggest contributing factors to my success, I would say, again, is marketing, because exactly what you're getting at. I have had it so many times where I've told my clients, listen, at my listing presentation, I'll provide a window, right? I'll provide a window up front because I haven't seen the property physically yet. And of course, that can change a number of things, as we know. So I'll walk into that listing presentation with a price point window, right? And then when I leave that listing presentation, that same day, they're going to have an exact price point. And a lot of what I do is then I get to marketing it, right? And I tell them, listen, I think in this window, I think I'm safe listing it at the bottom end or the high end. I think we're safe. I almost always go a little down. And every time I do it, we find ourselves in multiple offers. Every one of my clients is like, oh my gosh, you just set a record. If it's a condo, we set like 10 records last year for the whole building for what we acquired in top dollar. Like we kind of got a little competitive about it.
Good. I like that.
So, but
Yeah.
little things like that go such a long way. And like you said, do you think any of these clients care about the tiny commission that they gave up in order to achieve an additional 10, 20, 30, $50,000 on top of what they had even hoped for originally? Not once. Half of the time, Travis, our clients, if you're a good agent and a good lender, like we're saying, half of the time, our clients don't end up paying a thing in the end, in the long run.
Right. That's so good. That's so good. And then even a lot of people forget to mention that, a portion of closing costs and a portion of realtor fees can be tax write-offs. They can be.
Correct.
Obviously talk to your tax professional. And definitely with tax season coming up now, if you sold or bought a home or refinanced a home last year, you potentially have some good write-offs. It's very, very potential. So definitely, that has to be talked about too. So I want to circle back to a topic that you and me are very passionate about, and it's our daughters, right?
Yeah.
And being what we do for a living, and being fathers to little daughters. Because how old's your daughter?
My daughter just turned 7 last month.
Just see,
Yeah.
my daughter's going to turn 7 in April. So yeah, so
Yeah.
we have the same age daughters, right? That's cool.
It's awesome. Blessed.
Yeah. Yeah, so blessed. So, when it comes to running a very successful real estate business and working with clients all different hours of the day, and nights and weekends, which a lot of people do know that realtors and lenders have to do that to be successful and make a good living, because we have to work around our clients' time. What do you think's been one of your biggest challenges, but then also one of your biggest successes on how you manage your time with your daughter and your real estate business?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that because, like you said, I know we're in the same boat in this category. Greatest challenge by far, not just in business, not just with my daughter, but in life in general, has definitely been being a single parent. Caring for my daughter, being there for her, setting examples for her, all of that, setting the foundation, all of those things are just so crucial. And to me, that's, as our daughters are absolute worlds. So to me, that's the challenge, and it's been the greatest challenge I've came across in a long time in my life. And it is that it's time blocking, it's structuring your time best, it's prioritizing. Just like I learned from you a long time ago, Travis. I try to push off work as much as I can in advance on the days that I know I'm not going to have my daughter, so that I am able to give my daughter 110% of my focus at all times when she's with me. And what I've seen with that, to answer the second part of your question, is because of that, the result has been absolutely unbelievable. My
Mhm.
daughter's bond has been so strong because of it. I do so many activities now with my daughter that I didn't used to do as often. I've always been, I was a stay-at-home father first few years, because I was in a different industry and I only worked on the weekends. So I've always had a great relationship with my girl. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
recently it has just stemmed to just 100 different levels. So it's awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah, and we're both single dads, and we're both managing our new schedules, and it's like
Yeah.
the key that I listen to you say is that I can resonate with is we when we're working with a lot of our clients, what I've had to do now, because I have my daughter week on, week off, when I do have her, and I know those are the days I have her, it's made me almost be more effective and more efficient whenever I do have to work with clients now, because it's forced me to be very clear and precise on my communications,
Yeah.
still having good connections with my clients and my staff, but knowing, hey, I'm going to be with my daughter tonight. Can we do this tomorrow morning? And most of the time, a lot of people are cool with that. And I just think in our industry, it's so important that whether we're working with clients or we're working with fellow realtors or lenders, communicating, very, very honestly and truthfully about where we're at, what I'm trying to get done. Is that okay with you? And that's why a lot of times now, when I have my daughter, I'll even ask her, hey, if we go do this, honey, in a couple hours, daddy is going to have to do some work from like 6 to 7, but then from 7 to 9, we'll do this, this, and this. Does that sound good?
Exactly.
And that's that time blocking stuff you're talking about. That is so crucial. And if any single parents are watching this, or any married couples, or husband and wife are watching this, and they're like, gosh, yeah, I kind of struggle with the balance as well. How are you doing it? Um, I think that I didn't choose to go be a single parent. It just things happen, and now I'm here. But it's turned to a blessing, because, like you said, now I know the time I do get with my daughter, I make it count. And I just want to challenge any parent that's watching this: make it count with your kids, right? Even if it's just on a walk or playing Uno in your living room,
Yep.
enjoy that Uno game, right?
Yeah.
If it's
Yep.
cooking spaghetti, have your kid cook with you, right? And they might be like, no, I don't want to cook spaghetti. Say, no, but I need your help. And then you getting them to cook spaghetti with you might turn into one of the funnest days that week. You
Yeah.
spilled some sauce on the floor, or you're laughing, you turn on some music and you're playing with the noodles. Like, make everything count. And if you're just kind of in a little bit of a spin, and you're like, gosh, I don't plan something big with my kids this weekend. I need to do something with them. I've been working so much. I haven't seen my kids. Just do the small things, and the small things add up to the big things. Don't you agree?
I kind of learned that the hard way, so I couldn't agree more. It's when I was married, I found myself so busy all the time that, it would be the small things, like you said. I looked at them as small things back then, right?
Yep.
Since I became a single father, Travis, I've since realized the small things, that what I thought was the small things, are quite frankly the largest things in my life.
Love it. I
And
love
it's those little things like you, that those special moments that it's, daddy, daddy, can we play with this doll? Or can we get the clay out? Can we color? Can we do this? I'd always look at it as like, no, that's 5 minutes of playing with clay. Go ahead and play with clay on your own. I'm going to do something productive. And since this, I've had a real eye-opening experience. And that's, listen, I would rather play with clay right now, Travis, any day of my life than sell a $20 million property, period.
I love that. I love that. Gosh, brother, I love that. I, it just is, it's so profound to know, like, the just the power that I want others to get from this conversation, hopefully, is that back to the make it count, right? And it, like, whether it's you're working with your client, make that phone call count. Whether you're playing with clay with your daughter, make it count. Whether
Right.
you're going to get your workout in, even if it's only 20 minutes long, and that's all you have time for that day, rock that 20 minutes, baby. Get that
Exactly.
workout solid for 20 minutes. Put your phone away. If it's a bike or a run or a quick lift, just do it, baby, and be in the moment, and let your body feel the endorphins of that workout. Because I think too many of us, and I fell victim of this early in my career, and I still struggle with it, and I know you probably do too, is it's that um, we get so wrapped up in our world telling us we need to grind, we need to hustle, we need to dominate, we need to make it happen, we need to make money, and rah rah rah, right? And it's like, that I think can lead to actually like a really like bad path, because
Yeah.
it just kind of makes your mind get caught up in, am I doing enough? I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. Oh my gosh. And then that goes back to the being, not even realizing how you were like, yeah, I don't want to play with Play-Doh, or that, like, maybe later, whereas it's
Yeah.
like, no, time block. If this is your time, then do it all. Enjoy the imaginations of your kids,
Correct.
because that only lasts for a little bit. And if
Yeah.
it's, I'm going to do a listing appointment from 6 to 7, be all in with that client and give them your undivided attention. And I think that is like really the pinnacle to what separates people that are good versus great.
I think you're right. And one last comment, it's that I kind of thought of. They say people who are blind or deaf, right? They say your other senses are enhanced that much more when you lack one of them, right? I
Mhm.
think the same concept um, goes true for when it comes to single parenting, like you said, on the days that you have your daughter and then the days that you don't. You find yourself on the days that you don't have your daughter being 100,000 times more efficient and proactive in every way. And I think that's because of that balance, right? It forces you to do that. But I look at that as such a blessing too, you know?
I do. And that's where when they talk about, things can happen to you and you can turn them into blessings, it's not that I'm glad this happened or everything happens for a reason, because you can say some things happen for a reason. And I do like
Yep,
that comment, right? But if you
yep.
say every little single thing happens for a reason, well, that doesn't really add up, right? You know,
Yeah, that's
like
yeah,
there's
you can't,
some
that's
things.
not the case.
Yeah, that's not the case. But ultimately, what you choose to do is what you choose to do, right? And I think
Yes,
my final thought is just whatever you do and however you do it, you're not in control of what all happens to you in a day, but you are in control of a lot of what happens in that day. It's
absolutely.
not this or that or wonder what this or the market this. You're really in control of a lot of your destiny. I'd say
Right.
80-90% of it. So, you know, anybody watching, if you needed to hear this, I hope you did. And I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Matt.
Yeah, you as well, buddy. And one last thing I have to say, because in regards to the Play-Doh and clay comment,
Yeah.
now I pick up my daughter from school, and you know what I hear?
Huh.
Daddy, Daddy, I can't wait to play Play-Doh today. And it's all I care about. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
means everything right there. That's it.
That's it. That's amazing. Same here,
Yeah.
bud. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for sharing everything.
Yeah. Thank you as well. And thanks for your time. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, brother.
Okay. You take care.
You too, brother.
All right, man.